Good afternoon, LinkedIn Live, and welcome to another Philanthropy Friday. You'll notice we're a little bit late today, like 21 minutes. You know, here we are speaking about speaker training. How about technical training? Unfortunately, our guest and us didn't get aligned. Technically, they're using a computer with unstable Wi-Fi, different location, out of the country. Anyway, my sincere apologies, and hopefully you'll still get this and we'll still go live, and it's going to be a great event. The good news is that it is recorded, so you'll be able to have it perpetually available. Good afternoon from far and wide. My name is Mark Halpert. I'm the CEO of WealthInsurance.com. I want to welcome you to another Philanthropy Friday. This subject matter in particular today, I personally love because it's something that applies to absolutely everyone. And we have a diverse group. Obviously, there's a lot of interest. We have quite a few people who registered for this, but our group that comes together are professional advisors who will certainly benefit. Charities who are involved with fundraising will certainly benefit. Professional philanthropists will benefit, and our clients, anybody who's involved with anything in the public, will definitely benefit from today's session. And I'm fortunate to have Eliezer Blatt join us, who is an international speaking coach, was involved with me many, many years ago. I don't know if I was single at the time. Maybe I just got married, but I was at a school in Jerusalem called Esha Torah, where I was studying, and there were a number of people who were going to be given ordination to be able to be speakers, certainly teachers out in the Jewish diaspora. Again, my experience up until then was, you know, I was the youngest of four boys. So if I didn't speak up, I didn't get that second helping or, you know, or get my way. So I was pretty good with that. But I also had to develop this skill over the years from, I remember my first time speaking, like reading every word in front of me, you know, to eventually getting rid of those training wheels and going forward. So I'm going to bring Eliezer in to the call. We're going to have a dialogue, and hopefully today you're going to come away with some real tools to help you be more successful at everything that you're doing. Eliezer, nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Mark.
Wow, we made it. Oh my gosh. We were sitting here, everyone, and we were thinking about what's plan B. Cancel, send a note that, you know, it ain't happening today. But fortunately, through the graces of God, we managed to get set up today. So Eliezer, it's so nice to have you here, and I'm glad that you're on this side of the world. At least now we're in the same time zone.
That's why we can do this. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, you know, when I was growing, I told my kids, you know, the most important thing that they could learn when they were, you know, teenagers is how to speak in public. You know, like I'm gonna quiz you, Eliezer, and I'm gonna find out whether you know the answer. But I went into my AI and I typed, what are the top 5 things that people are most scared of? That was it. That was it. So I'm going to test you, Eliezer. What do you think are the top 5? And what do you think?
Yeah. So, Mark, I actually looked at the studies, and there's a misconception with this, because I think I know what you're going to say, which most people say on this. And it's actually, when I went into the studies, one of the #1 things that are over there is public speaking. Public speaking is definitely on top. But what a lot of people think, and I'm going to preempt you, is they think that #2 is, I'll quiz you, is death. But it's not. It's not. It's not. So from my study, I see there are others that are higher there. Heights, getting close in an elevator, computers crashing, insects and bugs. These fears are even higher.
Right. So again, but at #1, it says fear of public speaking. They actually call it glossophobia. And then it goes fear of snakes, followed by fear of fear of spiders. I know my wife freaks out over that, and one of my sons. Fear of heights, and then fear of death. I always thought, I heard that people would rather die than speak in public. I've heard that expression before.
Yeah, you know why you've heard that? Because Jerry Seinfeld said that joke. And when Jerry Seinfeld says a joke, it becomes fact. Well, what he did was, to make the joke better, he moved it up. He moved it up. Yeah. So, but the truth is, people would not rather have death. If someone put a gun to someone's head and said, speak or I'm going to shoot you, what do you think they'll do?
I have a feeling they'll be like, barking like a dog. Whatever they want to have said, it'll come out of them.
There you go.
So in other words, so people all have the capability, they all have the ability. What prevents them? Like, why are people so scared of speaking in public, Eliezer?
Yeah. So what happens is there's a lot of things that happen in our brain with the brain, and the brain has like a fight or flight built into it. And when someone comes in front, all of a sudden the big fears that are inside of a person come out. What are the big fears that people have? Fear of failure. What if I say something and they don't believe me, or it's not right, or that doesn't come out right? That's scared. They're going to look at me. My ego is hit. They'll think I'm stupid. They'll think I don't know. And that prevents people. All of a sudden, the brain starts to feed on this and freezes up.
So in other words, these people could be smart, could have valuable information to give over, but there's this fight or flight part of them that is concerned about their own personal rejection. Is that it? And they're worried of looking dumb or being judged or embarrassed or rejected.
Right. These are the things that happen. What if they don't like me? Yeah. What if they don't laugh at my joke? What if what I say doesn't make sense? A higher level is, what if what I say, it doesn't get through? They don't understand me. I get this from people also. What if they don't? So all of these things are flopping through. The mind is an incredible thing. It begins to work the moment we're born, Mark, and continues right up until we're about to give a speech in public.
That's so Eliezer, we're gonna cover a lot of it. Like, I want to know a little bit about you. How does somebody become a professional speaking coach? Because I know you work with the best, the greatest guys, and I'm very fortunate you gave me a lot of skills. I still do my breathing exercises before I go in front, and I push my anchors, and I do my cheek, all those little exercises that you gave me. And even then, at this point, I'm speaking all the time and charging, I get fees of $10,000 for speaking engagements on a regular basis. I go to our charitable foundation. It's great. But, I know I'm comfortable now, but I wasn't always. So how did you get involved with this?
Yeah, so I had a real adventure ride. I was from a kid, I was a singer, dancer, actor. I was always in front of audiences. I started playing drums professionally. I got into a band that was going to open up for a major band. I was in front of thousands and I was doing that. And then after the band broke up, I decided to go to college and I studied television. After I had my degree, I got the best jobs. They opened up Cosby Show, MTV, Reading Rainbow, top shows, working with top directors. And what was the job? Taking the world's best talent and putting it on the screen. So that was my background. Then when I came to Aish Torah to find out about my Jewish heritage, I left that. And while I was in yeshiva, we had a fellow who came. He was a corporate public speaking guy. And he came, he said, you guys need help with your public speaking. So I helped him develop a class. I worked as his assistant for a year. He left. I read all the books. I went to the seminars. I interviewed people to become the best public speaking trainer I was able to. Started doing it. People loved it. Then I started going to different centers. I went different cities. And when I was in a city, the local hospital that had surgeons found out about me. They said, could you help us speak? And businesses. And before I knew it, Mark, I was flying around the world doing public speaking training. And it just built up. So I was able to use all of that, the coaching that I had from the singing and the acting and the best directors, putting that all together. And then I got my certificate, from the yeshiva, and I got the certificate in hypnotherapy, and all of these things together just made me a good coach. Also, there's a lot involved with being a coach, as you know, and what your viewers know. That's much more than just the knowledge of what you're teaching. It's all the coaching and everything that your personality inside to work with people and be able to bring that out. So there's a whole new aspect. I mean, you can, I'm sure, have a whole show just on the art of coaching, but you put all those things together, and that's what I do. So now I fly around the world helping people become great.
And is it normally one-on-one, or do you do groups as well?
Both. One-on-one training, group training. Group training is good because you learn from the person that's getting the feedback. and you get feedback yourself. So that works when you get a little group to do it. But sometimes one-on-one is best. Sometimes it's good to do both. You know, a lot of people do one-on-one training, and then they come and they do a group, or they get out there and they join a Toastmasters club or something like that to practice.
Well, I know that I don't know who said it. Maybe it was you, but way back when was that if you can become competent and confident speaking in public, what happens is it gives you a lot of confidence when speaking one-on-one to somebody. In other words, it just allows you to be that muscle that gets built around you, and that aura allows you to really accomplish incredible things. And that's why I think with this diverse group that's listening, who are professional advisors trying to help their clients, or prospect to get new clients, or charity fundraisers who have to call on donors, like obviously this is like the knee bone's connected to the hip bone. If they can get good at public speaking, they can be exceptional at doing the more tactical day-to-day stuff. Is that right?
Exactly. My whole thing is life is a series of presentations. Wherever you are, you're on. And when I teach like you could stand up on a stage and how to use a stage. And once you could do that, then you could sit down virtually on your phone. When you speak to 1 or 1,000, you are speaking publicly. We have to define our terms. Yeah, you can't talk about public speaking without defining your terms. 1 to 1,000, you're speaking. You are on. You make public speaking. You do public speaking all day. You get up, you're talking to your significant other, you're on the phone, you go to a store, you give them something, you get something back. You don't need people think you need a big classroom. You need a big audience. We're making speeches all the time. So if that's the case, we might as well learn how to do it better.
Perfect. So how would a public speaking coach help somebody who's got a fear of speaking? Like, in other words, again, I could try again and again, trip, fall, break leg, bruise leg, whatever, and sort of do it on my own. How would a public speaking coach help somebody who just has a fear of speaking?
Yeah. So what happens is when you have a coach to walk you through and find out where those fears are and walk you through and give you ways and exercises to get through that, the best way is through an example. I had a grandmother who came to me, and she wanted to go for an interview to be a tour guide in Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Museum. And she came to me, she said, the problem is I can't even get up at a birthday party with my family without my knees shaking, my tongue cleaving to the top of my mouth. I forget everything. It's terrible. And she came to me with that, and we worked through it. I gave her exercises. We worked through it with a coach, what she can do, and she worked on it. And she went into this interview, and she told me, Eliezer, I was so happy that I was able to get through this. I didn't care if I got the job or not. Just getting through those 8 minutes changed my whole life. And you know what? She got the job also.
Wow, that's amazing. But isn't that interesting that all that buildup, that fear, you did the preparation with you, gets up 8 minutes, and now you've ratcheted yourself up. That's your new baseline. Like, you can't go down after that. It's now just going up. And I guess then you just build on it going forward, to get to that level of success. That's a great story, Eliezer.
Exactly. Once you see yourself, you video and see yourself that you can succeed and go way further than you ever thought you were able to, that becomes the bar. And so many people tell me, I took your class 10 years ago, 15 years ago. You know what the main thing was? Not just to speak in public, but to know how much further I can go and break out of my preconceived constrictions.
Interesting. So, in my industry and in many industries I see, especially if people don't have public speaking training, the average or the majority of people have the tendency of taking the simple and making it complex. Mm-hmm. Right? They take the simple and make it complex. And the key to success is taking the complex and making it simple, right? Because we're living in a time, Eliezer, where everybody's got ADD. They can't read anything. They can't watch anything that's more than 30 seconds. It's just, we're being tested even more that there's a shorter runway in order to make sure that you're clear to get what you need to get done. Are you finding that
Exactly. Exactly. That's it. So you have to make what you're saying has to be concise. There's a whole, one of the things we do is I give a system, a structure of how to prepare a talk and how to say it over in a way that you'll remember that it flows. Of course, you have to practice it as well. You're going to wing it and then wonder why I'm not such a good public speaker, why I'm so nervous. You know, you want to wing it. You know, you got a reason. So you'll be able to do that. My 3 P's is something, this is a gold nugget, laser focused. Practice, practice, practice. Have it down. What do people tell me? I've heard so many times before. If I practice, it's not as good. It doesn't flow. It's not authentic. It's not true. Yeah. You can wing it every once in a while. I mean, people wing it and you might make it, but you can't do that consistently. If you want to be speaking, you need to practice. Now you're lucky. When I first started teaching, I don't know, you tell me when you were taking the class, I had 9 P's. Proper preparation prevents poor performance of the person putting on the presentation. That's what I used to have. But now I got it down to 3s because people remember 3s, just like in real estate, they have location, location, location. So in public speaking, you got practice, practice, practice. Don't think if you don't go over it, and not in your head. Yeah, I went over it in the plane, I went over it in the bus 3 times. That's it. You got to say it out. When you say it out, your brain hears it, and then you can say, that works. That doesn't make sense. Does it sound like I want it to sound like? That's more like practice.
And you know, you're spot on, because I think that it's kind of like Shakespeare, you know, nobody has to know that you've said this over 1,000 times. But what happens now is you're not thinking so much, you're listening more, and you're picking up cues on people along the way, which allows you to be more successful. I heard also that, you know, the difference between a professional and an expert is professional is somebody who practices something so much that they don't get it wrong. And an expert is somebody who practices that they can never wait. How's it go? You practice. You see, I didn't practice that very much, Eliezer. You can't get it wrong. That you get it right. Oh, you practice till you get it right. And an expert is somebody who practices, you can't get it wrong. That switched, right? So
very interesting. And that's, you're hitting on a key. People think if I practice it so many times, it's going to lose its freshness. And it's not true. One thing that a public speaking trainer will show you, someone like Steve Jobs gets up there and you watch him and they'll say, oh, yeah, look, he doesn't have to be trained. He just woke up in the morning. Do you know how many hundreds of times he went over that to look that way? And you know why? It's unnatural to look natural.
It's
we have to work
to look natural.
We have to work. When you see when the woman goes up to the first violinist of the orchestra and she says, I would die to play like you. He says, oh yeah? Are you ready to practice 8 hours a day for the next 15 years? She said, no. He says, well, I did. Yeah. And it looks like he just, woke up. It doesn't happen that way. You know, when it comes to public speaking, why do we think that either people have it or they don't? Why is that? Why
people say, oh, he's such an extrovert and he was born that way. And they've just, had a good family. Not me. I grew up in a foster home, no love, no attachment. Right.
Exactly. But that's not the case. It could be worked on. And you know where I saw this? I saw this in another thing also. I told you I played professional drums for a band. And I found when I asked 50% of the men, do you play an instrument? You know what 50% said? I play a little drums. And I wondered why. I said, oh, you play a little drums? I said, let's see. The right hand goes like this on the cymbal. Bum, bum, ba, ba, bum, bum, ba, bum, bum. The left hand goes plop on the snare, plop. The right foot goes to-doom, to-doom. And the left foot on the hi-hat goes chick, chick. Yeah, that's how you play a beat. You ready? And the guy goes, what? Because that's 4-way coordination. It's easy to play a guitar or piano. You only got 2. Drums are the worst thing to fake. So why is it when they come to speaking? I think because in drumming, if you pick up the sticks, you figure, how far can I be? I just got to hit the things. I don't know about 4-way coordination. And I think the same thing with public speaking. How hard could it be? I'm just flapping my lips all day anyway. They don't realize that you have to learn. It's not just picking up the sticks, that you have to learn the different skills. And by doing that, you could become much better. That's what people don't realize.
And fantastic. And is there anybody who wouldn't benefit from public speaking coaching? Like, I mean, look, we're all trying to sort of, chisel away to sharpen that point, like we're always trying to grow and be better and develop ourselves. Like, I'm just thinking, it seems like everyone has to speak in public. Like you said, you're going to the grocery store, you're wherever, it's not just in business. But is there anybody that wouldn't benefit from sort of having, an analysis of their speaking?
Everybody benefits, young and old. I get calls from people who want their children to be better communicators. So they're willing to invest in them because they don't teach this in school. They'll teach all these things. When it comes to effective communications, people just don't have it. And when you do have it, when you're starting to work with it, it makes a difference. Someone who can effectively speak, and and everyone here knows for business, when you speak to someone who's effective, there's something changes. I'll give you an example I was thinking of before I came on the podcast. I was once in Asia Torah where we learned together, and a family came in to see the place. And I was showing them around, showing them this, showing them that, all the different places, the view. And afterwards, the father said to me, "What do you do here?" He asked me. I said, "Why?" He said, "I know you're a fundraiser." I said, "Why?" He says, "Only a fundraiser would be able to speak like you in such a way. We had such a good time." And I realized they think that that's what it has to be. You have to be, some kind of fundraiser to get someone. No, when you're articulate, they know that there's something there. Whenever I come and I'm speaking to someone, there's like something different about it. Why? Because when you communicate at a certain level where you're clear, right away something clicks on them. You become credible in their eyes. And you want to hear proof of this? After a speaker finishes, tell me, sometimes you come off the stage and someone will come up and ask you something that has nothing to do with what you spoke about, a total subject. Why are they asking you? Because since you were up there and you became credible when they were watching you, you know everything. You are a leader in their eyes. So when we become better speakers and better communicators, we become the leaders in people's eyes. And for business, it's great. This is across the board for your personal life too. But it's an incredible thing. When you work on being an effective speaker, your whole life changes.
Wow. And I was just thinking, first of all, I agree with you. It's incredible. People think that you're an authority and that you're a thought leader if you actually get up there. And again, just getting up there gives you that authoritarian figure part of it. It used to be that when we talked about public speaking, it would be making a presentation in a boardroom, right? To, a group or a sales presentation. Today, though, with social media, it's incredible how many people are graduating to the video world and having videos on LinkedIn. I know we have a whole series. I'm doing videos all the time. Social media, LinkedIn Live videos that you post. Like, if anything, it seems to be that it's even more important today than it was in the past.
Very good point. Yeah, virtual now is a whole art in itself. As soon as COVID hit, all of a sudden the phone started ringing. People wanted to know, how can I speak effectively with a camera? Cameras, lights, what's the room going to look like? Where should my head be? Should I still use my hands? What about vocal variety? A lot of the things that I teach, I teach to be able to stand up and command an audience. Once you can do that, then you can bring it down. If I just showed you how to work virtually, then it would be hard if you stood up on a stage or you're on a panel, or had a client in front. Those are different. But once you can learn how to command an audience, then the rest become easy. We can whittle it down. But virtually, where's my head going to be? Use my hands, the vocal variety, the eye contact on the camera, all of these things. And if you had people, you're looking at the people that are also on, all of these things come into play. So for sure, communications, even virtually, right now is very important. And I see a lot of people, instead of working on their virtual presentation skills, push it off. Oh, on virtual, you could just, it's okay to make mistakes and it's okay not to be a good, they gave it excuses because they have to be on, but they don't want to work on the skills. Well, I want to bring to people in my training so that you can be effective even virtually.
Yeah, so Eliezer, by the way, I just want you to know, while you're speaking, of course, everybody's going, is this guy a good speaker? I like his intonation. I like his hand movements. He's smiling. By the way, we're looking at you as the poster boy, and I'm just saying you're doing a good job. So good for you.
Here's the audition.
You know what? I mentor a lot of advisors, and we do a lot on video, and we do. And just last week, I called up one of my advisors who's just started on video, and I called him. I said, smile. You're not doing you're not working for a mortician. You're not like, a legal, will slip and fall. You're a relationship person. Like, you have a good smile. What? It's serious the whole way through. I'm thinking like everybody could use your services, just even to do an audit of their current stuff. Because I'm sure they're working with social media people, but those people are generally more reactive. What's the light like? What's the background? What's, but in terms of taking what's there and just amplifying it, I mean, you've got an endless amount of people that you could be helping.
You mentioned smiling, and you reminded me. I remember a story of someone I was working with who wasn't a smiler. And his wife called me and said, could you do something about it? This is the kind of questions that a speaker training gets. They figured I could do magic with all these different things. I said, I'll try it. It's not therapy. That's a separate thing. Anyway, I worked with the fellow. I got him to smile to such a point where he left the job. Now that he was smiling, other people started asking him, could you teach here? And she called me and she thanked me. And I was wondering, the poor employer that had him now that I showed him how to smile, he lost the good guy. But it brings the point home that once we're smiling, the whole dynamic of your life changes. Someone who's smiling, someone's up there. You don't need to tell somebody. Speakers come up sometimes and they start off like this. I'm so happy to be here. Have you heard that before? And I think, well, why are you starting like that? I happen to know the guy's making $20,000 dollars, for doing a 1 hour talk. You better be happy. You don't have to tell me. You come up when you come in, you can tell when someone's happy. Yeah. I never heard someone start off with coming in and starting their talk and saying, I'm so unhappy today. You don't start off with that. You can see when people come over there, you could just see it.
Eliezer, I always ask people, clients and people that, what was the most impactful book in their life? Like what book really made a big impression on them? And, one of the books that I heard from a guy who's in his 90s, very wealthy. He calls it his business Bible, but it's a book by a fellow named Frank Bettger, Bettger. It's called How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success in Selling. And it's great. It was written, he knew Dale Carnegie, and I recommend it to everyone. But, the first chapter, very small, is all about enthusiasm. That's it. Just enthusiasm. And going from there. But how important is enthusiasm to what you do and what you're helping people with?
It's actually, and you're probably not expecting this answer, it could be the number one tool in public speaking, in life. Public speaking is such a big area, because your whole essence is there. Someone who is passionate, excited, into life. Again, you don't have to be like this the whole time, but you got to have something. You got to be there. And when you walk into a place and someone sees that you're a passionate person, you're into it, that attracts them. You become more credible in their eyes. So the number one thing I work on, if you remember from when we work together in our workshops and our classes, is vitality, passion, getting that up. And you know what happens when you do that and you see yourself? A lot of other things that we might have to work on with the hands and the eyes and the movement fall right into place just because you are energetic and passionate about what you have to say. So what's the learning from this? What do we get from it? The gold nugget? When you're going to do a speech, when you're going to speak to someone, you're going for a job interview, you're speaking to a client, if you're into it, they feel that right away.
100%. Look at it. I'm really into philanthropy. I'm really into converting taxes into charity and helping people create enduring legacies and not sending money to Ottawa, creating private. I love it because I also know that the greatest tax people out there are exceptional at doing the planning work, but there's a whole shelf above of strategic philanthropy that they're not aware of. The professionals who are the gatekeepers and the clients and the people and the charities. So I feel like I've got like a genie in the bottle. Like I want to share that genie with people. And I guess that allows me to be more passionate. And I tell advisors and people that I work with, you have to really love what you do. You have to feel like, why are you doing this? What gets you up in the morning? Why do you love? And if you know what that answer is, then you're going to be so much more successful at communicating.
Exactly. And I want to add something here. Remember we started with the fear of public speaking? When you are into something, it changes the whole world. When you are passionate into it, a lot of the fears go away. Why? I'm not thinking about myself. I'm thinking about how I can get that over. So when we think about ourselves, what do I look like? What are they going to think about me? What if I make a mistake? That's where the fear comes. But if you were giving $1 million check to your audience, someone said, I'll give $1 million to everybody in your audience. You can't tell them if they stay and they listen to your whole talk. And you come in and one guy wants to go to the bathroom, one person wants to get their phone. You know what? You'll do anything. You know if he picks up his phone, he's not getting $1 million check. You are so enthusiastic, you'll do anything. And you know what? Your content, hopefully, when you're giving something over, you want to better the world, better that person in some way, and you bring that forward, they're not going to be so distracted. They're not going to want to look at anything except for hearing the gold nuggets that you want to deliver.
Well, Eliezer, so you're spot on. I remember when I spoke to you, I did a TED Talk back in 2019 at Moses Neimer's Idea City. And if you haven't seen it, whoever's listening, you should Google Mark Halpern Idea City. I was in the disruptors category, and the topic was called The New Philanthropy, which really frames the stuff I'm passionate about. And you looked at that, and I was really appreciative that you gave me some really positive feedback. You also gave me some constructive feedback on sort of facial movements that I was making that I was not even aware of, you know, and breathing and whatnot. And at the same time, what you were most impressed with, which you said is so much an important part of public speaking, is storytelling. People, like, you know what, I think a lot of us have the tendency to give over a lot of technical information because we want people to really understand what it is. But my experience is they don't need to know what it is. Tell me what it does. Tell me what it does. Give me something. So talk to me a bit about storytelling, which I'm sure is a big part of what you teach over.
Storytelling is key, because one of the most important things is people don't care what you know until they know that you care. And when you give over something with a story, you get into their emotions. People buy on emotions. I don't have to tell the professionals, the business people, the philanthropists know emotion is what is key. And how you're going to get through to people is through storytelling. And we all have stories. Personal stories are the best. Why? It happened to you. Oh, Eliezer, I don't remember that story. I read in Chicken Soup for the. If it's a personal story, no one should know it better than you. So I have a whole structure on how to take and bring your own personal stories. My clients have a journal of stories. They have jokes also. The humor is another.
I want to hear about, we'll talk about humor next. I'd love to hear about that.
But when we talk about stories, you want to have a point and show a story it gets through. Let me give you an example. One of the things I teach in the vocal variety is pausing. Yeah, the use of the pause, relish the silence, be able to be happy and be able to stop and let your message go through. And then I tell them the story, but you don't want to pause too long. And I had to tell them I have a friend that he was once on an airplane when Ronald Reagan was shot. And those who remember Ronald Reagan, yeah? He wasn't killed, he was shot. Some people around him were injured. But on the plane, my friend was flying on the plane, and the pilot wanted to take the opportunity to let the people on the plane know what happened. And we've heard that the pilots will use this microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the pilot speaking. Kindly fasten your seatbelts. We're going in through turbulence. You've all heard that. How about this one? Have you heard this one? Ladies and gentlemen, if you look over to the right side of the plane, we're going over the Grand Canyon, the largest hole in the world. They'll use the microphone for that. So my friend was on a plane, true story, and he heard this. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the captain speaking. Something terrible has happened. Pause. Oh no, everyone's thinking, the plane's going down. He comes back on. Some nut. Pause. Oh no, for sure we're going down now. The engines are going to. He comes back on. Some nut has shot the president, Ronald Reagan. Pause. With that, all of the passengers simultaneously stand up and go, we're not going down. That's a use of the word.
That was a terrible story. Talk about bad timing. Oh my gosh.
So that's an example of I wanted to get in the use of a pause, not be too long, and a story. Now that sinks in. Now I can see this from you. You're walking away from this. If you had to talk about, well, Eliezer mentioned a whole bunch of different things. What did he say? This is going to come up. This story is now embedded in your mind. So This is a use of stories.
Good. So stories are big, and I'm a big storyteller. You know, I always tell people how, you
Right.
know, I started in my business. I've been in professional practice for 33 years, but my real start was in 1974 when my father died of a massive heart attack at the age of 50 when I was 11. And he was a busy engineer and hadn't, you know, had no will, very little savings, no life insurance. It was tough for us. But in other words, it's a real story. And I think when it comes to stories, Eliezer, would you agree? It's personal stories that really work. Like, let's face it, all of us were either fundraisers, we're lawyers, accountants, insurance people, whatever. We must be in those fields for a reason. What's our why? Like, as Simon Sinek says, what's our why? And be able to tell that story to your people, why you do what you do.
Exactly. Collect stories. Again, I have a whole structure on how you can bring back. People say, Eliezer, you have so many stories. I don't have any. And then I'll show them as a module of my training how to pull personal stories, and you can use them all the time. They're the best to have. And then once you have the story, it's how to tell the story. So there's the delivery part, and there's the writing of. I mean, you can have a whole big story, but you want to cut the fat. Sometimes you just have a story, the person just goes into details. You know, I walked into a bus, and no, it was a train. I was in a train, and I was sitting down. I was sitting down, and all of a sudden, this fat person came. No, it was a midget. You know, and the story never gets through. So you want to be able to cut down, you know, and have that story so it's concise for people.
That's amazing. Listen, everybody who's listening, we do have a chat box. If you have any questions for Eliezer, hopefully at the end we'll answer some of those questions if we have time. But certainly Eliezer's contact information is available on the chat as well. In terms of the humor, using humor, you know, some people just, it's that timing, that bad joke, or they don't know how to be funny. Do you see humor? Like, is that something that can be learned? Is that something that can be developed?
It can be, but what we have to learn is, because people say, I'm not a public speaker. Why? This is how high it is on the list. Because I'm not funny. I can't tell jokes. So how can I be a public speaker? That's a misconception. So here you have a public speaking trainer who's going to show you right now, you don't have to make jokes. You don't have to be funny. You don't have to be a comedian to be a good public speaker. What you do have to do is you can all put people in fun. Yeah. You don't have to be funny, but everybody could put the audience in fun. What do I mean? Think of someone that you know. They don't tell jokes. They're not hysterical, but you just like to be around them. They give you the warm fuzzy wuzzies just being around them. That's being in fun. You can it could be a funny anecdote. It could be a funny quote. It could be something. You don't have to be a good joke teller to be a good public speaker. If you could tell a good joke, fine. I've seen speakers come, they heard you have to start off with a joke. You know, you don't have to start off with a joke if you're going to bomb. You start off a joke, and all of a sudden you finish the joke, and the whole audience is just.
Oh, Eliezer, I got to tell you, I was invited by a local yeshiva to be the MC for a big event, a big fundraising event. And I got up and I told this joke, and I've told it before, you know, it's worked. And I told this joke to this very upscale group, and nobody laughed. It was like crickets. It was like having one of those light bulbs hanging in the middle of the room going. Anyway, everybody makes fun of me about it. They make fun of it and I laughed. I thought it was very funny. But somebody on the line today wrote down, making fun of yourself is always good. What about that? What do you think of that?
You don't want to overdo it. I mean, it could be, you know, everything that we talk about in the public speaking is one of the things that I give over to my clients is every question has a depends. When I first started teaching, you know, Eliezer, should I always do this? Should I never do that? You know, never pick my nose. I maybe that's something you should never do. But always and never I got rid of. Why? Because I've seen people do different things that could work. We're all different. It depends on you. It depends on your topic. It depends on your audience. So it really depends on the situation, on what you want to do. So to do this, always, you got to know your audience. You have to know. But if you're going to use humor and if you're going to tell a joke, you want to know the joke. You want to know the audience so that it clicks. Yeah. I had a group of accountants, a large group. And, you know, we started off, I wanted to find something that connected. And I told them about a fellow who came for a job for an accountant. And the fellow was interviewing him, asked him, he says, you know, we want someone who's very good at math and is quick. It's quick. So the guy says, I'm your man. test me. So he says, what's 192 times 192? So the fellow says 263. The interviewer says, you're way off. He says, yes, but it was quick. It was quick. So I don't know who's laughing out there, but the accountants are they can't wait to get to the office to tell that joke.
Of course. Oh, that's hysterical. Okay, so getting back this idea of taking the complex and making it simple, I think people also, when it comes to public speaking, let's say they're in a technical business, or there's a lot of information. It's like, how do I organize all of those things to be able to have an appetizer, a main course, a dessert, whatever you want to call it. I don't know how you do it, but like, is that something you can help people with as well?
So there's different parts of the public speaking course and the training that I do. One is delivery skills, and that's using the hands and the movement and the eye contact and the vocal variety. That's one section. Then there's the creative content development. How do I put down a talk? What are structures I should use when I do it? They have question and answer structure, mix and match, using contrast. How do I put down the talk? All of these, this is a whole different area of how to put down my talk so that it's clear. Maybe I shouldn't use this story. Maybe this joke is not good for over here. What about my opening and close? I'll have a whole session with someone that come to me. We have a talk. Well, I had one the other. I had a CEO. Now that I'm in America, I'm traveling around. I had a CEO who was having a big meeting, and we worked on his opening and his close. We got those down. So in the beginning, when you're most nervous, he had the opening, then he had his information, it was question and answers, and he had his closing down at the end to leave them now with those words that he prepared. So these are all things inside the content development that I also work on with the clients.
Beautiful. And can you tell me just, and then we're going to wrap up because I know we started late and, you know, we're already after 1 o'clock right now, although this is recorded and it'll be virtually available about some of your clients. Like, I mean, you have some pretty significant clients, people that you've worked with. You know, you must be very proud when you see what you started with, that they had some raw material and now they're top in their industry. You know, I mean, again, you can't say, oh, it's all because of Eliezer Blatt. We know that where it really all comes from. But Eliezer is certainly a great intermediary, the guy that can help you to get there. So can you tell us just about a couple of the people that you might have worked with, or just, you know, you don't have to even mention their name, just what they've accomplished, what they're doing.
The truth, Mark, is, you know, my heroes, the people the most accomplishment, might not be the biggest names out there because they probably came in. People know, you know, in the Jewish speaking world, you know, the Charlie Hararis, the Lori Palatniks. People know Yoel Gold, who has all these videos going out.
Mark Halpern
goes in, and they're doing TED Talks. Okay, so they came in with a certain, call it extroverted, certain talents beginning. So I was touching them up and bringing them, taking them, I call it from great to awesome. You know, you bring people up. But you know what? The everyday guy who doesn't want to get up at all, and he thinks he's an introvert and he can't speak to people, and then they go out, and there's just so much more effective out there in the world, what they're doing. You know, the grandmother example I gave that couldn't even speak at a birthday party now. Those are the real heroes. Everybody can become better. Is everyone going to become a great public speaker? You know, people say, Eliezer, how long is it going to take you to make me a Charlie Harari? It doesn't work that way. Yeah, it's not a button push. But is everyone going to get better? Yes. Everyone who gets coached, we find that speaking personality. What are those things we can do to make the person more comfortable out there and more effective as a speaker, whether their personal life, their professional life? That's what we can do.
So there's something else here. We're talking a lot about business, but, you know, there are a lot of people who are listening. Maybe you want to meet a wife or a husband. You know, they kind of, you know, right now we're into like this online dating. You know, it used to be people went to clubs and whatever, but you have to be able to close to build a family too. Is what you're offering, is that something that could help people? I mean, Eliezer, I'm sure you're not coming up with the pickup lines, okay? But certainly, I guess if people are just getting the confidence to be able to speak, you know, and there are people who do have challenges there.
Yeah, I once did a session for some fundraisers, 2 women who were fundraising for a big organization. When I finished with them, she came over to me. She said, you know, my son, he's starting to date, but he's very shy in front of the girls that he's meeting, can you help him? Again, I'm not a therapist. I'll try. And I work with him. I did some role playing, and I figure out what I can do. This is what we mentioned. What does a coach do? It's like that. I figured out a way. Anyway, 2 months later, I got an email from the mother. She said, "Mazel tov, he's engaged." So
Wow.
that's a home run for me. Can you do that?
Totally. So you hear that? So you hear that,
yeah.
people in LinkedIn land? If you're looking to get married, Eliezer's the guy to come to.
Married,
as I always say, ABC, and my friends know this, although somebody just wrote this in the comments. I always say, in everything in life, it's ABC. Always be closing. You always have to be closing, and you have to know how to navigate that. That's for sure. So we're going to wrap up now. If anybody has any questions, please let us know. Eliezer, where do we go from here? Because I'm thinking, again, I know how good you are. You've been a coach for me, and I know that when I have a project or something that needs to be looked at, fine-tuned, you can work on that basis, or you can work on creating, sort of some material that I'm working on, or help me through stuff. But everyone's got a different need. As I said, we've got professional advisors, lawyers, accountants, insurance, investment people. We've got fundraisers here, and we've got just regular business people who are, out there in the world. I know that you have professional speaker training that you do one-on-one for people. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd like to talk about it. I know that you do offer a couple of packages which are very popular. I believe one of them, the first one, is sort of like a 4-hour practice, a 4-hour package where you're providing one-on-one coaching for somebody for 4 hours. Is that correct?
That's correct. 4 hours. When I started doing this, I found that's a lot of times people would call, they have a speech that they have to give. And so a 4-hour package was good. It was good for their pocketbook. It was good enough time to go through what they needed to do in 4 hours. And in addition to getting their speech down, they also get, because by learning it, you can use that for other things also. So that was the basic package. Was for anything less was we were not going to get enough done, because the time goes. You can see just from this how many things there are to think about.
Sure.
Time goes fast. So 4 hours was the introductory package to work with someone that I don't want to start really doing. If someone says, "Look, I got one session, I got 20 minutes, I'm getting on to do a TED talk," okay, so then we're at time. But that's the basic package is 4 hours.
Got it. So, and my understanding is for a 4-hour package, which goes through all the essential delivery tools that every speaker needs to be effective, and the creative content development to create your speech. I believe that you normally charge for that $2,500 US. Is that correct?
Yeah, but those 4 hours is more for the presentation, or if someone wants to do the creative content. Remember, 4 hours, you're not going to get all of the presentation and all of the content development. So every time I speak with someone, we customize what they needed it, but they don't get everything. And you don't graduate after 4 hours and say, "Okay, I took Eliezer's last public speaking course after 4 hours." I have.
So there's no cookie cutter here. It's really very, very customized to whatever the person, and you'll be willing to speak to them about it. I also know, Eliezer, is it like just for the benefit of our relationship and the benefit for the fact that we're really speaking to a Canadian audience, which is primary, that you are going to actually offer that $2,500 in Canadian dollars, not real dollars, American dollars, in that Canadian dollars, which I think is so generous of you, and certainly will make it that much more affordable for the locals who, it costs over 30% more for an American dollar, which is great. So we appreciate that very much. But also I understand that you have, again, each situation is different. You have larger packages. It could be just for a project, whatever the case might be. I think at the end of the day, you just want to be on the professionals team, just like they've got a lawyer, accountant, investment. You want to be on the team to help them around creating a better footprint for themselves professionally and obviously socially as well.
Exactly. I had a CEO who called me, and he wanted me to come down. He was speaking for his daughter's wedding. He asked me to come, and he's petrified. "You want to go to England, or you want me to come to Israel?" He asked me. I said, "I'll come to England." I worked with him after, and I said, "You have 1,800 employees all over, England is one of the largest companies. Why don't you let me work? You have C-suite, you have so many people." He said, "You're right. You're not going to come down twice a year and work with my staff." So here, it started off just with him, now went to everyone, because he realized that this skill was something for everyone.
So really, I think what you're hitting on is extremely important. If you run a business and you have sales staff or you've got fundraising staff, it would mean so much if they brought you in and did group sessions. And obviously for the key people, they could be doing one-on-ones. You would create some sort of a platform to help them to be able to obviously ratchet up the most efficiency around their spend.
Exactly. Self-development is a very big thing. You all know as professionals in your fields, everyone's doing self-development with so many different areas. Public speaking is something that once you become good at it, it just affects so many other areas. When someone feels good about themselves and they're able to express themselves effectively, it's great for the personal life, it's great for the business. And it's, you can see just from our hour together so far, you know, it's effective, it's practical, and it's fun.
Absolutely. So I'm going to wrap up then. I don't see any more questions. The information for Eliezer, his contact information is in the chat. What's your email address again, Eliezer? Eliezer6 that I think we put down. Eliezer?
eblatt6@gmail.com.
eblatt6@gmail.com.
EBLATT.
Yep.
The number 6@gmail.com.
Perfect. So, and here, just in terms of the next steps, I always say I have something called the 48-hour rule. If something here resonated with you, do something about it within the next 48 hours. Otherwise, we forget it. Yeah. So, and please reach out to Eliezer. He's always posting on LinkedIn success stories, where he's speaking, tips for people, and look at joining his program. You've got his email address as well. As far as the audience working with us, we have a whole series of a tax lawyer digest, which has all of the information you need to be more successful around estate planning, tax planning, insurance planning, and philanthropy. We'd love to share that with you. Watch my TED Talk and let me know if Eliezer did a good job or not. This will be sort of the test. And for those advisors who really want to become experts at high net worth insurance and the use of strategic philanthropy, our next mentoring coaching program, The Power of Platinum, is going to be starting in September. We've had over 200 successful advisors who want it to be awesome join our group, and we'll be starting our next cohort. And lastly, if you have any clients who are interested in philanthropy, high net worth, estate planning, you know, rather it can be a lonely business out there. We believe in collaboration, as I always have. So reach out. We'd love to work with you and your clients, and also collaborate with you, especially around the work that you might be doing with charities as well. So the one thing I ask is just don't ignore it. There's just too much riding on the line, and you don't want to miss out on that opportunity. So Eliezer, any last words before we sign off today?
Just please, if you want to improve yourself in your whole life and you want to get better at being more effective, please don't think that, I don't have it, I can't do it. Yeah, it's an investment in yourself and your whole life. I've just seen it so many dozens and dozens of times with people who, once they've gone through this, and I see people, I took your class 10 years ago, people like, well, Mark will say, just makes such a big difference. Please see where you can go. Get out of your comfort zone. Yeah, give me a call and let's see what we can do.
That's amazing. Well, thank you very much. Just wanted to let everyone know the next Philanthropy Friday will be taking place on Friday, May 31st at noon Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to have my special guest, Dr. Yatin Chadha, who is a radiologist at North York General Hospital. He also, during COVID, created a podcast called Beyond MD. He's extremely charitable, a big proponent of philanthropy. And I've spoken on his podcast, but I think he'll be a very interesting person to share his journey with everyone and hopefully give you some inspiration to be more successful at whatever it is that you're doing. So everybody have a great long weekend, and stay safe, stay well, and Shabbat Shalom for everybody else as well. Thank you, Eliezer. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Bye-bye.